Continuing with my Neuralink story, I the back of my head itched, and it has never stopped. Back then, I would make a suggestion, which was that because I was having so much trouble with it, that maybe I cut it short, buzz cut it in the back. And I would ask people to buzz cut it for me, and I would tell them about what pain I was in. And I'd be like, "Hey, let's cut my hair, and let's take pictures or videos, or give me some mirrors so that I can take a look at least the surface." It did cross my mind that they had basically done a surgery so quickly and not cared really what condition the incision was in afterwards, and that any kind of surgical incision may have become infected, or it may have some kind of almost fungal infection may have begun to develop around that area. And I just thought, maybe if I could get that haircut short and start applying some Neosporin to the area on a regular basis, get some air to the area. I even suggested to people hey, maybe it's just something simple like psoriasis or eczema, and all it would take is some medication, and I wouldn't be in this incredible pain and discomfort all the time. And any suggestions that I would make regarding cutting my hair down, looking at the back of my head, having other people look at the back of my head, or, applying medication to it, or anything like that, or even just cutting my hair for the relief, people would just completely fall silent when I would make any of these when I give them any of these ideas, when I would make any of these suggestions, basically. Which leads me to how I kind of set them up in a similar way about my eye. Well, not set them up, but sort of use the same thing to kind of set them up to see how they would react if I would suggest anything about wearing an eye patch. So at the same time that I'm complaining about this pain in the back of my head, that it itches so bad, is there any way that we can do anything? This is the only way that I could think of to maybe provide some relief, is if we cut the hair. I mean, this had been going on for months, and other people around me in 2 different locations were listening to me make these complaints and literally be in absolute despair and misery. It was no joke. I mean, I was in and out of the hospitals. I was having to go visit neurologists and ophthalmologists. It was extra traveling time, effort, everything that other people didn't want to pay for and I could not afford. It was medications that I could not afford that other people were having to help me with that I didn't actually need. Literally, the state insurance paid for all of these different people to lie to me and to play in my face, including the eye doctor that I knew, who wanted to pretend that he couldn't show me the photos that he had taken inside of my eye, which he claimed were only photos of a swollen optic nerve. And I'll get into that in a little bit too. And your head being itchy is kind of like a gross, weird thing. And it really sucks to constantly be scratching at the back of your head in every different circumstance that you're in. No matter what's going on, no matter what's happening, I, at some point, am going to have to reach back and scratch the back of my head and make it look like I have lice or scabies or something weird like that. Within the last year, I was finally able to get people to cut it short for me. The first person made sure that it was all hacked up and terrible looking. That I was he even made sure as he was shaving the back of my head to leave a patch over where the surgical incision would have been, and he made sure that whenever he took a picture of the back of my head, that he just did such a terrible job. Like, no one would have ever done that terrible of a job unless it was quite deliberate. He's just like, oh, look what I did to you. But you could see that there were patches, these weird red patches all over the back of my head. And I was really upset with the dude. I was so upset with him for doing that. I took a picture of his mom's license plate and everything. Just this super retarded trafficker dude that they sent to do that, basically, and then some. It took me several months before I could finally get my haircut again a little bit lower, but this time I didn't even ask the dude to take pictures of it and stuff. I just got him to cut it down just for the relief of it. And, back when I was in California and just within the last couple weeks, I was able to, apply antibiotic ointment to it to see if that would help with the itch at all. And it actually did help with the itch, which is really surprising. Like, it still itches, it's still terrible. And it even started kind of almost like itching in a different place since I started to do that, but it's at least not as just terrible as it's been forever. And I think there might have been once or twice that I had my head shaved aside from this, but I do remember other times applying like Neosporin or antibiotics and stuff, or antibiotic ointment to the back of my head to see if that would improve the situation. I don't know whether or not it did back then. Apparently not well enough, because I was still going through it. And it does seem like there's just like an itch that will never go away, but there was something going on topically with my skin. And if someone would have just simply been kind enough to go ahead and shave it down back there, apply ointment, whatever. Obviously, I wasn't going to be able to be like, oh, you guys did something to me. Even if you could literally see a incision directly down, even back then and even now, to take a picture and post something like that online and try to tell people or show people, like, not no one, but people really don't believe you or want to see anyways. Like, if I could get my hair cut well enough back there and have pictures or a video taken of what it looks like from the outside, I would totally do that and let somebody else do that. But it's been about a year since I threw a fit online and I was like, I'm going to get my hair cut and I'm going to take a picture of this and show everybody the scarring and the whatever, which it's actually like a weird blotching or whatever. I'm not really sure what the fuck's going on back there. And so they basically had that guy do that to me and then just act like a complete dummy and just act like just complete jerk to me. And then they made it to where like a lot of really terrible things happened all at once, which is something that they do whenever they're trying to like retaliate against me or punish me or whatever, or just make things harder for me, more difficult. And apparently I'm on some special list of people who need to be gotten rid of. And one of the main reasons why is because we were implanted with all of this technology, and the people responsible for it don't want to have to, be, brought to justice in any way. And they also don't want to have to pay out. A lot of them don't think that they could ever be brought to justice. That's a lot of them, that to them that's not even an option, because we're talking about people who are billionaires or people who work for billionaires, companies that are owned by billionaires, things like that. So they don't think that, justice or law could ever happen to them. It's more so a matter of them, being a little bit prideful about their reputations and them not wanting to come off of any money. Because, I wouldn't sign any non-disclosure agreement and just accept funds in exchange for what these people did, destroying my whole life and then sending people after me afterwards to try to cover it up. There's no amount of money that they'll be able to pay me to make any of that right. But there are people out there who would and probably have already signed non-disclosure agreements relating to these neural monitoring implants and other, implants that, or there are a lot of people who would just like settle out of court, and they wouldn't want to make a big thing out of it. They wouldn't want trials. They wouldn't want to have to go through any of that kind of thing. Simultaneously, there are a lot of people who you could have paid to begin with to be able to do these kinds of things to them. It's like double, triple, quadruple jeopardy, not only to be treated like that, but then also to be treated even worse afterwards. And then for people to, I'll get into what happened after all of this. I really am just trying to focus on the initial neurolinking and for now, and how that affected me. All right, yeah. So anyways, the itching has been really relentless and terrible, and I'll never let you guys off the hook about that. It's really bad. Sometimes I would think that the itching was like healing, like something healing back there, or like something constantly trying to heal, but it couldn't, or something like that. All right, so as far as the eye was concerned, this was about the first time that I began to consider that I could have an eye camera. And I thought to myself, like, how could I almost kind of like set people up to give themselves away in a lot of these situations that I would be in. But very specifically, because they were so dumb about me, my suggestion about shaving the back of my head, I after so many months of being like, my eye hurts, and people being like, man, your eye's really swollen. You look like your eye's about to pop out of your head. I was finally like, I feel a lot of relief. I'd tell these people like, I feel a lot of relief whenever I cover my eye for even just 10, 20, 30 minutes, an hour a day. Like, what do you guys think? Do you think that I could just like go get a cheap eye patch and maybe just start covering my eye for a little while every day? Whenever it starts to hurt really bad and swell out like that, like maybe I could just cover it and provide it some relief. And, you would think that people who were around someone who was showing signs of terminal illness, who was suffering greatly and had to, continually visit specialists, that if they were complaining about a pain in their eye and there was nothing that you could do for them, all of the doctors, they just pretended that it was all just, some pseudotumor cerebri, an imaginary tumor, a false tumor, and there's nothing to see here. And, you can only give me shitty medication. There's no way to relieve the pain. Why not put an eye patch on for a little while here and there if I was really in that pain, and just, alternate eyes here and there. And each and every one of them would be like, oh God, no, you can't cover your eye. You should never use an eye patch. the only reason why anyone would ever use an eye patch is if their eye was missing. Oh, if you put an eye patch on, it'll make you go blind. It'll only make things worse. So it was like overnight, suddenly parts of my body were affected that I couldn't actually see for myself, look into and see myself, or look back at with my own eyes and see myself. And I was, making these suggestions to bring relief to myself in this situation, and no one could handle either of those options or ideas. While I was in the hospital, they had all of these medical students. They told me that they were medical students, and it was like between 20 and 50 people. And they had me laid up in bed, pretending they didn't know what was wrong with me. And they told all of these people that I had idiopathic intracranial hypertension, or pseudotumor cerebri, and that they were all going to take these flashlights and look into my pupil in through my eye. They claimed that they were all going to be looking at the back of my eye at my optic nerve to see papilledema, which is at least a temporary disorder that is characterized by swelling of the optic nerves. It is the result of too much pressure against the optic nerves. And so they would have all of these people, like 30 to 50 people all at once, like one at a time. They would come and look into my eyeball. And you know what? For the life of me, I can't remember which eye they were looking in, but I really wish that I could. But they were coming and looking into my eyeball, flashing these flashlights into my eye, looking into my fucking eyeball. And they were all so fascinated by what they said was swelling. So fascinated by swelling. Additionally, I was sent to an ophthalmologist who took photographs of the inside of my eye. And he claimed that he was taking photos of papilledema, or optic swelling. And I did not believe him. I did not believe that everyone was just looking into my eye, and that it was so important for them to look into the back of my eye just to see redness and swelling and swollen blood vessels. That didn't really make that much sense to me. So I asked the guy, I was like, since it's so fascinating, is there any way that I could see the photographs that you took of the inside of my eye? And they just kind of acted like little stumbly stuttery, like they didn't really know how to respond to that question. And they kind of acted like that sure, I would be able to see them if I just came in and signed for them and all this. When I was about 11 years old, I got hit by a car. It was also something that was a deliberate setup. This is all linked together with like a severe lifetime of abuses that no one is answering for. I can remember when they were giving me x-rays whenever I was a kid, that I was actually able to look over and watch these x-rays come up, and the doctors, nurses, and myself were all able to look at these x-rays. And whenever this weird Neuralink event thing happened, it was suddenly a secret for me to see my own x-rays. Suddenly, no one could show me anything. No one could show me the back of my head. No one could show me the inside of my own eye. No one could show me any of the x-rays. For the first time ever, I wasn't allowed to see my own x-rays or to understand the full scope of my own medical situation. Yeah, the state literally and probably the whole federal government paid for me and pays for pretty much everyone to be left in the dark about their own medical everything. Like, you think you know. At some point, I actually would see an x-ray of my skull. And it was an x-ray that was given to me by a chiropractor. There was a chiropractor in town who would, as you left, it was about $100 to visit the dude. And as you left, he would print out an x-ray of your spinal column, the back of your head and neck. It was an image, a complete image of my skull and everything. You could see my little fillings and stuff in there, and you could see that there was something in my eye and that there was something going on in the back of my skull. But I didn't look too deeply into it because I'm not sure why, but I just didn't look that hard into it. But I remember that the person who took me to the chiropractor, that he was like, look at your x-ray. And he kept trying to get me to look at my eye. He was like, look at this. Don't you see this? You don't see this thing. And I was just like, oh, just ignore that and stuff. Because honest to God, like, to me, I felt like that my own nation had made a terrible mistake, a terrible and embarrassing mistake that they would undoubtedly not want people to know about. And to me, I loved my country so much that I would not have wanted anyone to know that they ever made a single mistake. And I wanted to give them time to straighten it up and to act right. But I have basically given them the time to do that, and they haven't done that yet. So it's really sad because it's like I loved them so much more than they loved me. I loved my nation and my government so much more than they loved me. But we're not going to get into that right now. The pressure in my head and in my skull and in my eyes was so severe, you guys. It was so bad. It was literally like drowning all the time, like being really far under the water and having that kind of pressure on everything. It was so terrible. And one of the only ways that I could find relief was through cannabis. And the cannabis did begin to take the pressure off of my eyes, off of, intracranially. The only thing that I really had to watch when it came to the pot was, goofy accidents, issues with decision making at the time, and my blood pressure. Blood pressure was because of the intracranial tension, and a number of other things. I had developed this issue called tachycardia, and that was huge. It was a huge part of it, this tachycardia. If you don't know what that is, you're just going to have to look it up because I don't have the definition out in front of me for you right now, but tachycardia, papilledema, tinnitus. I mean, it was all just so terrible and so severe. And I was just treated like a stupid little guinea pig throughout the whole process. No one cared about the lack of information that I had about myself, or that I was in pain, or anything. There was this painful pulsating that was happening in my eyes, like at the same time that I could hear this whoosh, 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 whoosh in my ears, I could also see it, this pulse in my eyes, this whoosh, 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 and as I could watch that there was an issue with the blood pressure in my eyeballs. I mean, it was some serious business, you guys. And if you've made it this far through my story, I thank you so much for listening, and I'm still not done yet. And peace.